Welcome back. We're discussing Chechnya's fragile peace that many believe has come at a price. Critics say that President Ramzan Kadyrov has established a totalitarian fiefdom with Moscow's backing, and human rights groups accuse him of brutally suppressing dissent, warning that his methods could push Chechnya into another conflict. Discussing the main issues with me is Mohammed Adil Shishani, the Vice President of the World Chechen Congress, who joins us from Amman in Jordan. From Hartford in the US is Professor Emma Gilligan of the University of Connecticut, where she specializes in Soviet history, human rights and genocide. And from London we have Lord Frank Judd, the former Council of Europe Rapporteur for Chechnya, who just visited the region recently. And Frank Judd, Lord Judd, I get back to you, sir, with the response to Oleg, our caller just before the break, who said that he feels that you're not understanding Russian culture and Russian nature, and in trying to basically trying to impose a Western style of democracy and rule onto Chechnya.
But this is why I wanted to meet the President and discuss this with him. It's not about Western values. It's about what is essential to build a stable, secure society. If people are suffering tyranny, if they're suffering injustice, if homes are being burnt, targeted assassinations are taking place, people are being tortured, disappearances are occurring, people are resentful. They're not one. Their hearts and minds aren't one. If you're going to build a stable society, you've got to win hearts and minds. Now, may I make the point that this is part of an international struggle? I get us cross about counterproductive things we do in the West. Guantanamo Bay, for example, or indeed in my own society when proposals are put forward to get rid of some of the essential traditions in our justice system because we want to be able to take shortcuts in meeting the terrorist threat. These things are counterproductive, and I speak out strongly against them. Of course I care about human rights. Of course I have my values. I've worked in those things all my life. But what I get irritated about in my older years, if I can put it this way, is counterproductivity and stupidity. Right. If you are actually causing the resentment, the tension, the problems that you say you're trying to prevent, that's not very clever, is it? And I would like, he's a very outspoken man, I would like to have an honest face-to-face discussion with the President about this.
All right, well, let's get a couple of questions for our please go ahead, Professor. I was going to actually ask you a question about... Go ahead then, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to Lord Judd's comment, actually, and to the argument put forward by the caller's proposal. And I think an argument against that is precisely the fact that the people who've paid in terms of their lives and their livelihoods are Russian and Chechen human rights activists. So if these values that we're so-called imposing are Western, then those who are fighting for them are actually Chechens and Russians themselves. So I think that really needs to be taken into account. And certainly Estemirova, Stanislav Markolyov and Politkovskaya have all paid dearly for their commitment to human rights in the region.
Professor, I was going to ask you about the power base that President Kadyrov has, presumably without the strong backing he's had from Vladimir Putin, and now, of course, President Medvedev, who's now in his second anniversary, sorry, not second term, second anniversary. Without this backing, he really wouldn't have the strength to do what he's doing.
No, I think that's definitely true, and I think that we saw in the interim period between the First and the Second War that there really wasn't a great deal of budgetary support towards the Maskhadov government, and therefore I think that did help lead to the collapse of the state as well as the divisions within the movement. Now, I think Putin's personal support for Kadyrov has been extremely important in building up that infrastructure that Lord Judd was talking about. I think what has changed since the attack in Ingushetia last year is that they I don't think Medvedev is quite as likes Kadyrov perhaps in the same way that Putin did, and I think this is evidenced by the fact that he didn't visit him when he went down to the Northern Caucasus last year, and also he is now, and I'm very optimistic about this, is talking to the President of the World Bank about economic development in the region, and I think that's extremely important.
Neil in Jordan has been waiting very patiently. Neil, thank you very much. What would you like to ask?
Thanks for allowing me to be involved in your show.
Pleasure.
I was just wondering, Lord Judge, about the absence of the world community and the condemnation from the Security Council. Where's the United Nations from all this human rights violations? Well, how come we don't hear about United Nations coming in and coming up with resolutions
Neil,
condemn Russia.
Neil, let me put that first actually to Mohammed Shishani first. Sir, Mr. Shishani, first of all, what, in terms of the presence of the international community and the attention the international community has given to the issue of Chechnya, what's missing? Why has it been relatively absent?
The main problem has been, in fact, self-interest of the Western governments, including the USA. They look at Chechnya as a small problem on the side that compares with their interests with Russia, and they figure out that, you know, let Russia do whatever they want to in Chechnya, and we'll be better off that way. I would like to go back, in fact, and point the audience to what is the root cause of the war in Chechnya. You know, the problem is not Kadyrov himself. You know, who is Kadyrov? Kadyrov is nothing but a puppet of Moscow. The Chechen people did not fight from 1784 until today so that Moscow will appoint Kadyrov to rule Chechnya. The Chechen people have been fighting for the right of self-determination. They want to govern their own affairs. They want to have their own independent Chechen Republic. That is what the wars have been. That is why we gave hundreds of thousands of martyrs for the cause of independence. That is the point that we should be stressing, not the point whether we have streets or economic development in Chechnya or not. You know, we do not want Moscow to appoint our rulers. We want our people to elect our rulers, and then we will decide our future. That is the main thing that is that should be emphasized.
Let me get a quick question to Professor Gilligan here, actually, that came in from Billy Hussein, one of our viewers who sent this through Facebook. And Billy Hussein says, how does the Chechnya issue complicate Russia's relations with Muslim states?
Well, I mean, I think that it's already complicated its relationship with Muslim states. Particularly what has happened in so far as there's been a change in Chechnya between the rather traditional and more modest Sufi traditions that were very much a part of Chechen culture. And certainly by the Second War we saw increasingly the influence of Wahhabism from Saudi Arabia, and that played a detrimental role, I would say, in the development of the Chechen resistance movement.
Let me get 30 seconds to go, Lord Judd. Just 30 seconds. And a quick question to you, sir. Are you going to try to get back to Chechnya to speak with President Kadyrov? Do you have any hope of actually engaging?
I would love to have an honest conversation with President Kadyrov. And may I just say that human rights were not chosen in our history in Britain as a nice way of running society. They evolved because they were essential to stability. Right. That's the argument, and that's the same across the world. And furthermore, it is very disturbing that we have these people as human beings, as individual human beings, just disappearing.
Right.
Disappearing.
Lord Judd?
How can you be proud of a country in which that is happening?
I thank you very much for your input, sir. We have so many more questions and never enough time. I thank you all for taking part.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us too. Now remember, you can follow the show on Facebook and see what we're up to. You can give us feedback on the topics and post your questions and your comments too. On the next show, Barack Obama had pledged a new direction with Latin American nations after he became US president. As his top diplomat Hillary Clinton visits the region more than a year later, we ask how well those promises are being honored. Tune in for that. From me and the team, we'll see you next time.